Good
Useful.
afternoon. Thanks everybody for being here with us today. I'm Katie, or I'm the coordinator of our University Express program, and we're back with Amy and Gary, two of my favorites. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Awesome, and we're happy to have you. And we have some new folks on, which is super exciting. So welcome to you. I'll quickly breeze through my housekeeping and then I'll turn it over. But we are recording this session and I'll post it on the website likely early next week. And then you can find it right there at erie.gov/University Express. And we'll communicate with you through our Q&A panel. So as Amy and Gary go through their presentation, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type those in right away. You can send them to me. If you're on a computer, look at the lower right-hand side of your WebEx window. You'll find your Q&A panel. And if you're on a tablet or smartphone, touch your screen. That brings up your control panel. You'll see a circle with 3 dots. Click on that, and then you'll see Q&A. So we hope you get all your questions answered. I know I have a lot of them. Now, let's get in. Let's learn about our speakers. So we have Amy Alduino. She's the Erie County Recycling Coordinator, and she provides outreach and education on recycling and waste reduction to businesses, residents, students, and communities. She recently worked with Erie County communities to create 10-year planning documents to manage solid waste and improve recycling and reuse in Erie County. She's also part of the University of Buffalo-led research consortium working on issues related to disaster debris. And then we have Gary. Gary Carrel is a solid waste recycling specialist in the Erie County Department of Environment and Planning with responsibilities related to hazardous waste, waste reduction, and recycling. He provides information to both residents and departments within Erie County on ways to promote, reuse, reduce, and recycle. So thank you both for being here. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting us. Let me see if I can do this right. Share. From the beginning. That work? Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. So Amy and I are, just thrilled to talk about this. We could probably talk about this for hours, but keep it down to an hour. And I just wanted to say before we start that obviously plastic is an important material that are used in a lot of things. So we're not at all saying that plastic is all bad and evil in any way, shape, or form. What we in the waste reduction world are concerned about is all this excessive single-use plastic, everything from the bags that were recently taken out of the retail place, to all the takeout, the just all this stuff, and probably everyone listening knows this, but I just wanted to sort of state that up front, that we realize that there are lots of wonderful things that plastic has brought us. All right. All right. So Amy, I don't know, you want me to do this? You want to do this?
Sure. Why don't you do this one?
All right. So, everybody knows the deal. In most municipalities in Erie County, it's curbside pickup. Although there are some that you do take the materials to a site. But for the majority, we're putting our usually one large tote. I don't think we have any municipalities that are sorting at the curb. So everything goes in to your, you collect it in the house and then you put it in your recycling tote, and it's all mixed together. And then it goes to the materials recovery facility. If you ever wondered what it's called, where all our recycling goes to, and of course we always want to say materials recycling facility, but it's technically a MRF. We call it a MRF. And if you do ever get a chance, or if you can Google, how a MRF works, it's really quite fascinating, the way the materials come in and they're sorted both by hand and mechanically. We have well, just one facility now in Erie County. Amy, that I'm right about that, right? Because the
That is correct.
Allied facility closed.
Mhm.
And it's pretty well, it's relatively state of the art. It's probably going on almost 20 years now, or 15 years. But when they built it, it was, this brand new, very new facility. And, like, it uses air because, it blows paper up and it picks up the plastic. It uses magnets to pull the metal off. And then it uses people, to go in there and pull out a lot of the garbage that shouldn't be in there, like plastic bags. Talk about later. And then these facilities separate all this stuff, and they bale it into the different commodities, and they sell it, and that's how they make their money.
But that is if the material that they've collected actually has somebody who wants to buy it. So there are a lot of materials that you are cleaning out and you're carefully putting into your recycling bin that currently do not have a buyer for them, so that they are not becoming a new product. They are not, while you're recycling, they're not being fully recycled at this point.
And that has always been true. There would be, like, for instance, there'd be a certain type of plastic that 1 month the facility might be able to sell it, so they collect it and they bale it, and then another month that market drops and they don't. So that's part of the reason why. I mean, we can't be constantly telling people, oh, this month we're going to take this one, this month we're going to take that one. So that when you might hear, oh, they're not really recycling everything, well, in that is true to an extent. But it does change. It does change according to market. It changed according also where the facility is. Just something that can't be sold here in Erie County, maybe in the Midwest. There is a buyer. So I mean, this stuff, it is very fluid, and yet again, we can't necessarily say, okay, this month we're going to take this month we're going to take that. So that's part of the reason why some things aren't always recycled. Just throwing that out there. All right, so our first question is next.
Okay, we're ready for our first quiz.
First quiz, yes. Why? Oh, maybe it was. I'm trying. I don't know why this isn't advancing. There we go.
Okay, so we need you guys to answer a question. So this is a game called Two Truths and a Lie. So two of the things that are up here are true, and one of them is a lie. So try and pick the lie out.
People are participating. This is good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another 15, 30 seconds. Is that okay?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay. Is the poll closed?
All right.
Let's see. Ah, very good, very good. For those of you that answered number 1 or A, recycling costs the same as garbage disposal, you were correct.
It looks like we have a
Recycling
pretty.
costs are as much as 50% higher than your garbage disposal costs. And that's actually because of that whole MRF system that Gary just told you about. So there's all sorts of costs for processing the material, and those costs are defrayed by selling those material. But if the material isn't selling for a big enough amount, then the processing fees are bigger than the sales fees, and that is something that our communities have to, and you through your taxes have to deal with. The other two are true though. Recycling saves resources. If you're able to reuse a material, it is actually a lot less energy intensive, and you save raw materials. And finally, separated recycling is more valuable than mixed recycling because it's already done. So that paper bin at work that goes into the big paper bin that goes to the mill is actually something providing a higher quality paper that's easier for a recycler to use than the paper that goes all the way through the MRF with all the glass and the plastic and the metal and everything else that's in there, and then gets separated out again. Because it's complicated, and along the line, there's more likelihood of it becoming contaminated.
And the other thing, the other element that impacts the cost to our municipalities is the wrong materials going in. So that's why we're always pushing very hard to look at your town's recycling menu and to pay attention to it. It's just as important what should go in as what shouldn't go in. So and especially now, and the reason we're seeing these costs going up is because the MRFs, the materials recovery facilities, have to figure in these costs, and so wrong materials increases the costs. Are we ready for our next?
We
question?
are.
All right, so Katie, we're on to the next one. 2 truths and a lie. So you want to read them, or you want me to read them, Amy?
Yeah, why don't you read them?
So the first, number 1, all plastic is technically recyclable. Oh, they're right there. 2, this symbol, the chasing arrow symbol, means it is recycled. And 3rd, plastics are made from fracking gas. We said fracking gas.
Sorry for any typos, guys.
Oh, no, there was no typo.
No.
So A, B, or C, which one is, you want the lie, right?
I want the lie.
Want the lie. I think I know this one.
I think you do too. So, and this is a tricky one because this is a very clever lie put together by very clever people.
We got some good participation. 5, 0, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. All right.
Oh, we got ya. So, the first one is actually true. All plastic is technically recyclable, but most plastic is not economically recyclable. And that is actually because number 3 answer 3 is true. Plastics are made from fracked gas. And we have so much fracked gas right now in the United States that the raw materials for plastics are incredibly cheap, much, much cheaper than actually making stuff out of recycled plastics. If you want to go back a slide. So the symbol in the middle was designed to confuse you. So the recycling symbol is on the left, and that's the we recycle this. The chasing arrow symbol was made by the plastic industry to look like the recycling symbol, so that you would think, and it's on every piece of plastic, including this little bottle on my desk right here, has that symbol on it. And you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, it's recycled. It's got that thing on it. It's got a number in it. But that number just says what type of plastic it is. It does not say anything about it being a recycled material or it being a product that actually is recycled. And number 3, plastics are not recycled. So it's one of the things that we have a hard time telling our consumers about is the fact that there are a whole bunch of things that are designed to make you think that plastics are a lot more, that there's a lot more plastic recycling occurring than actually is. So next slide.
I just want to note that plastic is also made from oil. So if you were thinking, well, I thought plastic was made from oil. So it's oil and natural gas are both used to make plastics. I'm trying. This thing is not. There we go. Okay.
So only 9% of plastic produced is recycled, but it's not recycled into the same thing. So a bottle does not become a bottle. A bottle is downcycled into like Trex decking, things like that. And that's because plastics are pretty complex chemical arrangements. And the ability to reproduce the same plastic, you know, that same chain of carbons and other things is really hard.
And so like fiberfill is another good example. So your recycled materials might be inside your pillow, or it might even be a t-shirt, so, but again, it's not going to go back to that, to that bottle. It's not going to.
Yes, this bottle will never be a bottle again.
That's right. So it is being recycled, but, again, to be clear, and yet I'm sure we would never want to say, let's downcycle everything, because that just sounds like a bummer.
Right. So in contrast, metal cans become metal cans in about 60 to 75 days. So it is something that is simple enough, and it is economically costs less to make a can out of recycled metal than it is to get the raw materials and make metal.
Yeah, and that includes the environmental impacts, of mining.
Right.
Where with plastic, that's not quite as intensive.
Right. Okay. Next slide.
All right, next slide. All right. We've all heard this. If you've watched practically any of the main television channels from PBS to CNN to NBC, they in the past year, I would say, there's been a lot of press about this. And just in case you've heard about the China not accepting the materials, that is true. China has severely restricted the amount of materials they're accepting, and it's why a lot of this has happened. but we want to be clear that China gave everyone 2 years notice. They said, okay, this is not working out for us. And in terms of, basically they were getting everyone's garbage. They weren't getting pure material. So China finally said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. And it seems as though maybe everybody thought they were bluffing, so all of a sudden this happened, and then there was this backup, so that's why, we've heard about this more. But then what's come out is, and I'm gonna let Amy talk a little more about that. What's come out is that, we as the public have been a little misled. Amy?
Well, I mean, what we've learned, and and Gary and I have been learning more in the past year with all of these exposés and things than we knew.
For
What
sure.
we learned is that plastics were not designed to be recycled. And and most of them are not recycled. So all those stories are true. I mean, and as Gary said, it's such a balance, though. I mean, plastics have brought a lot of good into our lives. I mean, some of the hygienic things, some of the tubing, some of, those hard plastics that are so much part of our life.
Phones,
All the
our
stuff on
phones,
my desk right now, our
our,
phone.
our
Those are great.
computers.
But what's happened is that we got convinced that in our grocery stores, everything had to be covered in plastic. And sometimes individually wrapped in plastic and then wrapped in plastic again. And
That's the best.
and that's the best. And none of that stuff. And then also like bags. So think about your chip bags or those flexible bags that you buy with different stuff in them. Those are actually multi-layers of plastics. And when there's multiple layers, they just cannot be recycled at all. It's recycling's about lots, cheap, and simple. So there has to be a lot of that material. It's got to be fairly cheap to separate it out. And that's why simplicity works. And you'll see stories that, oh, if you bring these back to your supermarket, they can be recycled. And that's true.
It's true.
But the truth of it is they can be recycled, but they're not being recycled because of an economic purpose. It costs a lot more to recycle those things. So what's happening some of the time is manufacturers are actually subsidizing that recycling so they can say that if you as a consumer took the time, this item would be recycled. And the only reason it's not recycled is because you aren't doing that. And that's what a lot of and one of the things that annoys me and a lot, and Gary a little, is the fact that, you're being told that if you did a better job, things would be better. And that's partially true. But when we have a material and and bags and stuff like this that really can't be recycled, that's probably not a good message.
But I will say that Amy is 100% correct there. But that 9%, that number we see, it also does reflect the fact that there is a significant amount of the population that is not recycling at all. So if indeed everybody was recycling all these materials, then what I mentioned about at the MRF, when they're baled, all of a sudden there would be more and they could possibly sell. So I mean, again, it's sort of chicken egg a little bit, but so we do not want to give you the impression that you shouldn't be recycling. That is not what we're saying at all. But we also want to be truthful, or at least to let people know as much as possible what is truly happening. So I mean, you know, just like everything, you know, there are many nuances and many reasons. But, and I'll just say one more thing about what you said, Amy. It's like, you know, if you're a company and you're designing a package that you want someone to buy, you want it to be, you want it to pop and you want it, you know, so that's why maybe this bottle I designed or this package I designed doesn't comply, because maybe it does have 3 different plastics in it in order to, so it can be whatever, shiny or whatever. So marketing gets in there. So like if everyone just had everything in the same 3 bottles, this would not be an issue. You know, we probably would be able, we'd be saying, oh, you know, 80% of the stuff is getting recycled. So, and yet, how do you dictate to manufacturers, we don't want you to, you know, to do this? So I mean, again, it's super complicated. I'm so glad that I'm able to share that with you. All right, I'm going on to the next.
Okay, so plastics don't actually biodegrade because little microorganisms don't eat them and make them into smaller pieces. Plastics will slowly break down, but they break down into smaller pieces of plastic, and then even smaller pieces of plastic, and then microplastic. And there is a lot of plastic in our oceans, not just those gyres you've heard about. And there are some organizations that have said that if we don't figure out how to use less plastic as a world, that there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050.
And just to bring it, sorry, Amy, just to bring it closer to home, the same is true for the Great Lakes. We've worked with a professor, Dr. Sam Mason, who has done a lot of testing in the Great Lakes, and golly, they are filled with plastic, as is, don't be shocked here, as is a lot of our beer, because of course beer is made out of water and the water is filled with plastic. So even our beer isn't safe from all this plastic.
Right. Well, there's plastic in it. It's not unsafe, but it does
Right,
have plastic,
right.
as do we, as does everything. So, and this is something that happened in our lifetimes. I mean, I'm 56, and 56 years ago, plastic was not as big as it is today. I mean, and we're looking at plastic usage doubling. And that's actually another thing that the manufacturers of oil and fracked gas are looking at, is that as people buy more and more electrical vehicles, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with these fossil fuels. And one of the things they're looking at doing is expanding plastics, so that the amount and type of products we have now, they're innovating as we speak, and there will be a lot more unless we do something about that.
And as consumers, you know, we do have a lot of power. We can, you know, begin, and I think the recent ban on plastic bags is a great example. I had a number of heated discussions with people. You know, why should government legislate that that I can't get a plastic bag? And my simple answer was, you've had years to bring your own bag to the store and stop taking these plastic bags. And people weren't doing it. So, you know, I don't know the answer there. Now, all we did, especially our local grocery stores, not only were the plastic bags eliminated, but they put a 5-cent fee on a paper bag, which is not part of the state law. The grocery stores decided to do that. Huge impact, because nobody, well, I don't want to pay 15 cents for my bag. So that's the motivation, you know, that people are remembering to bring their bags to the store. But that didn't happen on its own. You know, our grocery stores aren't going to do that. They, you know, they would send people to their competitors. So I do salute the state for, putting this in place. And um, water keepers are now keeping track during their cleanups of how many plastic bags they're picking up. And this year they didn't see as much of an impact as they thought, because of course, because of the pandemic, or this past year, because of the pandemic, a lot of the bans were put on hold. But I think next year, when they do these collections, these cleanups, we're going to see a lot less plastic bags. So, all right, I'll get off my soapbox.
Right. So when we banned plastic bags, we banned 23 billion plastic bags that were used in New York State, just New York State, every year.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a crazy number. There is a ban that will be starting that we're very, very excited about. That'll be starting in January, and that is a styrofoam ban. Yeah. Styrofoam, if you think plastic bags are bad, oh my God, don't get me started on styrofoam. It is bad for the environment, and it breaks up into little pieces in the water, gets covered in algae, and the fish think it's food.
And what was that number again? 23. What was that number again?
23 billion plastic bags.
23 billion. That's just New York State.
Yep, that's just New York State. So styrofoam, I mean, obviously, it is a great material, except when you decide that after you've used it for those couple of minutes, it's going to be around for, here, this says at least 50 years. Other things say at least 500 years. And in that time, it is not going to be a neutral force. It's going to be a negative thing in our marine environments and our other environments. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Okay, let's get off this topic and move on.
So these are just some suggestions that we're saying that everybody can have an impact. I like that. I like your third one, Amy. Be skeptical about recycling claims. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is to empower people. And then, like I said, as a consumer, you have a lot of power. We have a lot of power. If we start saying to the stores, I don't want my lettuce in plastic containers. And that's a hard one, because when it comes in a plastic container, it's all nice and clean and ready to go. So everything's balanced, everything's balanced. But any more you want to say about this, Amy?
No, I think
that's pretty clear. Katie, does anyone like just call in? Does everyone see everything that you know of?
We don't have any callers right now, so yes, everybody can see.
All right, so that's good. All right, so just again, these are all things that we can do. We can, individually do, but together we can begin to make a change. Amy, I'm gonna turn this one over to you.
One of the things that we're working on is working with other communities and other counties, in fact, to put recycling on a diet. So we are working towards a unified recycling menu, which will be for most and perhaps all the counties in Western New York, and it will stress the items that we are actually seeing that are being recycled, or based on commodities are sometimes recycled during a year. But if something is not being recycled, if it's a plastic that's not being recycled, then we're going to call it as unrecyclable. So what we're going to do is we're going to determine what those items are in our area, and then we're going to focus our education on outreach, on working with great folks like you guys to collect items that are actually being recycled and understand why other things aren't. So the next thing is product stewardship, and it's something in the garbage circles we talk a lot about. And what it says is that it's not fair for your municipalities to have to bear the brunt of all of these design and manufacturing and purchasing things that it shows up at the curb, and your community has to figure out how to pick it up, how to deal with it appropriately, how to try and be environmentally conscious, and also to try and do that on a budget, because nobody, including me or Gary, wants to spend any more on our taxes. So product stewardship is a concept that says if you made it, you should be at least partially or maybe wholly responsible for its end of life. So if you made it, then you should be helping or having systems for it to be recycled or reused at the end. It's not we just wipe our hands of it. We made it, you bought it, we're done. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear you're having problems with recycling in your community and you can't afford it. Oops. So, and that legislation is very complicated. Thus far, it's occurred in a couple of states. I think Maine just passed a bill. We have not gotten it through in New York, except for a couple of things. We have a product stewardship thing that's starting up for paint, so that paint manufacturers are going to manage the end of life of paint. So they're going to have a system where you can take your paint to a place, that paint will be collected, and that paint will be remixed and reused for certain purposes. And it's not going to cost our municipalities any money. The paint industry will cover it. So we'd like to see more programs like that.
Right. No, that's a good idea. That's a good example. And just not to, so as to not to confuse people, for years, Erie County has accepted oil-based paint to be properly handled because that is a hazardous waste. We have not taken the latex paint. Because of this new law, we're going to be able to. But Amy, I just want to say that that doesn't mean that we're off the hook, because now that basically means when you buy that paint, they're adding that cost of recycling it into that.
It's like when you buy your battery. The thing that is most recycled in this country is actually automotive batteries.
Right.
And that's because you pay a fee, and there's this great system that you don't even have to know about. So you've paid a fee, and in the end, your battery goes someplace to somebody, and the metals in there are recycled out and put into new batteries. So that's the kind of best of things. It happens if they're simpler kind of products as well. I mean, it's easier to do batteries or paint than it is to do mixed packaging. But those are the concepts, and
another
that's
one,
worked well.
sorry. Another one is oil, automotive oil. Because of extended producer responsibility, if you change your own oil, any service station is required to take up to 5 gallons a day from a resident, and that's because, again, the cost to recycle and reuse this oil is built in. So we see examples. We're hoping someday to see this extended to packaging, because it would make a big difference. And it goes back to what I was saying, that as a manufacturer, not only now would you design this beautiful package, but you'd have to think about how to recycle that package. And that's why extended product stewardship works, because they have to consider that when making whatever they're making.
And then the third one is to just if we as a county buy, if we as a state buy items that we require a recycled content on, then we are creating a market. And if there's a market, then businesses will figure out how to meet our market. So that's something that I know Gary is working on in the county, that when we have specs, we try to, if we can, include a spec that requires a recycled content for certain materials.
Right, and that can make a huge difference. And again, it's sort of that power of the consumer. All right. Because we're focusing on plastic, we did want to bring up this idea of film plastic. Do not put plastic bags in your curbside recycling. That is super important. Basically, what happens is plastic bags, and including, don't put your recyclables in a plastic bag and then put that into your tote. If you put
Which
your
is what I did for years
well,
and years.
lots of people do because it makes sense. So go ahead and put it in your plastic bag, but dump it. Dump the bag and reuse the bag. But there is an option, and again, this is a New York State law that retailers of certain sizes, but definitely grocery stores and the larger retailers, they all have to offer this film plastic recycling. And that's bags, there's some nice examples here, including, that newspaper bag, although I have to say I'm happy my newspaper person is taking back those orange bags to reuse them. So that I really get excited about. There's a bread bag. So the rule of thumb with how do you know if a plastic wrap is recyclable? If it stretches. So, if you put your finger through it and it rips right away, then it's garbage. But if it stretches, then that can be recycled at a retail outlet, not in your recycling tote. So, and then there's that solution about bringing your own bag. So then, you cut back on that. I think hopefully everyone has seen that. Just a cut back on the amount of bags we're getting. Although if you do any kind of takeout, you're getting more than enough plastic bags that you need to fill your garbage can or get rid of the kitty litter or whatever. Because believe me, people complained about that. All right. And here's just, again, some advice from our years of working on this.
Well, and it's make reuse a habit. And you don't have to be crazy about it, though crazy is nice.
Are you calling me crazy?
A little bit. Do you bring your own plastic containers to restaurants?
When I remember.
So think a lot about single use. Single use is a huge waste of money and a huge burden on our environment. So if we could use less single use stuff, we would make a better planet and really not even miss that stuff. I mean, it's been a year without mostly using plastic bags, and we're okay. And we would be okay if we're okay without straws in a lot of places as well. I mean, we learned how to drink from cups again. We made it. And we can do a lot of things again as we rethink these sort of things.
But if you need a straw, it's certainly okay to
Yes.
take or bring your own. There's your two options, so again.
Yeah, we are not straw shamers at all.
That's right. That's right. And then I just wanted the repair, getting things repaired, which can be not necessarily that easy these days. But look there's a number of what are called repair cafes that are popping up, which are volunteers that come and, with various, abilities. They might be sewers, they might be able to fix the lamp or the vacuum cleaner. So, if you go online and Google repair cafes, you'll see some of those coming up.
And you meet really great people at them who know how to fix like anything. I mean, they're so cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree. And then if you saw our last talk that Amy and I did, then you know all about organics management and composting, which we strongly advise that, if you can. And I believe at that one I mentioned, if you don't want to do your own composting, there are options out there. Some municipalities are actually offering it. City of Buffalo, town of Amherst,
And a lot of them are thinking about offering it and trying to figure out how. So in the next 5 years, we are going to see more and more opportunities for you to easily and conveniently divert your food waste from landfill. We're ramping up for that. We're not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, and again, if you have questions about any of this stuff, we're always happy to
Call
provide.
Gary.
Call Amy. All right, now specifically, we want to give you some suggestions. We've hopefully given you the broad picture here and the issues, but I want to come back to this, knowing your town's menu. Menu meaning what's accepted and what's not accepted. So, and as Amy said, we believe that that's going to change in the next, within the next couple of years. We're going to see that perhaps get smaller, but it will get smarter. But between now and then, or whenever, keep track of the menu. So we're saying, if you put it up on your refrigerator 5 years ago, it's time to check again. Make sure there have been changes. You can get to that by going to your municipality's website or going to our website, which is
or
Erie.
looking on Recycle Coach.
Well, that's number 2. I'm going to let you talk about Recycle Coach, but erie.gov/recycling is as long as you can get on the internet, it's a great source. But we have a list that takes you directly to your municipality's recycling page. So you don't, because sometimes, and we know we have a government website, we know that they're not always the easiest to maneuver. So we have a direct link. So that's one place. Now tell people about Recycle Coach, because that's what we really are very excited about.
So one of the things we did starting last year is we purchased an app for all of Erie County and then worked to customize it for every one of our communities. And when you're customizing things, I have to tell you that 44 is a lot of customizations, but we did it. So we have an app called Recycle Coach, and it will tell you your garbage and recycling days, remind you of them. But it also has questions on there about recycling to improve your recycling IQ. It's got a little blog of a topic on there, and it has a what goes where list for your community. So if there's a certain item, what do I do with the mattress? You can look on the app and get an answer for your community. So we're very excited about that. We are getting that rolled out, and it's something that you can either use on your smartphone as an app, or you can go to erie.gov recycling, find your community, and get your information from the web page.
But Recycle Coach has a web page too, right? Isn't that? Am I wrong about that?
No, you would go to our web page.
Oh, you go to, I'm sorry.
We've got a drop-down menu for all of our communities.
So, yeah, well, and a lot of that, including like if you're looking to find out what to do with, anything you want to recycle that wouldn't go in your curbside tote, we have a list, an extensive list of that all at our website as well. So if you don't have a phone, then you go to our website. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Then we have some municipalities who have it on their website as well.
Right.
So, so you can find us. And finally, we wanted to remind you about this great program that we started last year, which was we realized that our HHW events, while you got to see us in person, so that was exciting, waiting long periods of time and seeing us for hours while you were waiting to drop your stuff off was not exciting. We get that. So we changed our HHW events to reservation only. And we also have this great new service where we have contracted with a company called Hazman, so that you can get a voucher for free to take 50 pounds of the eligible items to Hazman and Tonawanda Monday through Saturday, all year round. So if you're cleaning out your garage, if you have to take down the old shed, if you're moving somebody in or moving somebody out and you got a whole pile of stuff that can't go in the garbage and needs to go somewhere, you can use our voucher program Monday through Saturday. You just have to go online or call them. You call Hazman directly, make a reservation, tell them you're coming, and then about the next day you can show up and bring your stuff, and then it's gone.
And so what they like to do is they give people 3 days. So from the day that a voucher is issued, they'd like you to come in within 3 days. So, think about that. Again, if you don't want to get to it through the website, you can either call Hazman or call us. And Amy, I don't know if we put our phone number, but 858-6800 is like our general information line.
It's
so
our hotline.
Yes. So that also talks about our hazardous waste program and talks about a lot of other things. So if you don't want to go online, 858-6800. But online, lots of resources. Right. Let's see. Come on. So there is our direct line, so you certainly can call us as well. Ultimately, if you call 6800, you get us anyways. And our emails, you're welcome to email us. We're always happy to answer questions. And speaking of questions, Katie, did we had any questions?
We have quite a few questions, but first I want to thank you both for that presentation. So the first question, and Gary, you kind of danced around this and touched on it a few times. Why can we not put plastic bags in our recycle totes at home?
I got a little diverted there. The biggest reason is that the plastic bags get wind around the equipment. So as I said earlier at the MRF, there's all this, there's air blowing, there's magnets, there's lots of these belts going up and down, and everything is turning, and these plastic bags literally wrap around everything, and the facilities have to stop their work, and in some cases they actually the people have to get lowered down like ninjas because there's no other way to get to this stuff, and they have to get in there and they have to pull out the plastic bags. So these MRFs were never designed to accept our film plastic. So that's the reason. And one thing we've learned by going on these tours, like if your recycling's in a plastic bag, most likely that's getting thrown out. Because if they can grab it and throw it out, they're doing it. There's not enough time for somebody to take that bag, to open it and dump it. So I mean, and that's Amy, is that true of shredded paper? I get confused about
shredded paper. So think about all these pulleys and systems and blowing around. Shredded paper is a hot mess. So they do not want shredded paper because it doesn't make it into a paper bale at the end. It just makes a mess all the way along. But what shredded paper is good for is you can use it in your home compost. So we recommend that you keep that for your home compost. And then if you have sheets of paper or junk mail or anything like that, as well as your paper packaging, that should go into your recycle bin.
Okay, thank you both. This next question is, how do they sanitize materials that will be used for contact with food?
Well, so remember that the plastic that's being recycled is made into these little pellets. There's a name for them. I can't remember what the name is. So it's then these pellets are then melted down and made into other products. So it's not like your detergent bottle is directly, going to turn into, your takeout container. It's really going through a whole different process. So in that whole thing, I mean, everything is heated up, it's cleaned. There's a lot of washing involved in recycling, whether it's paper or plastic. There's a lot of it gets sort of washed in it. I remember a very simple presentation I did many years ago. I had like a mixer, like a giant mixer, looking like it's, doing that with the paper. And so everything is washed. Interestingly, even the recycling companies, they tell us, your jars don't have to be 100% perfect. Just don't throw a lot of food in there. So everything gets washed and sanitized by the process.
Right, and it's all kind of broken down into constituent parts and then put back together. So paper is ground up and repulped, and then that pulp is reformed into paper or cardboard, or the end of life of paper is toilet tissue. So, and
egg cartons, cardboard egg cartons is another good end of life. And seriously, like if you look at that egg carton, you can see that can't be recycled again because those fibers are so small. But at least it's had, a good life. And it's what did you say, Amy? Six times you can do paper?
I think 6 or 7 uses for paper.
And then it just becomes.
Yeah, then it's just the fibers are too small and too weak to be paper again. But at that point, it's usually either an egg carton or mostly like toilet paper. So it's done. It's done what it needed to do. It's lived a good life. It's
yes.
Right. So that's that.
Okay, thank you both. I know we're coming up on time here, but we have quite a few questions. Is that okay? How do you want to work this?
We can keep going.
We're cool.
Friday afternoon. Nope, I don't. This is my job. This next question is a two-part question. So first part, should plastic windows be removed from envelopes?
No, do not worry about that. Again, in the process of recycling the paper, that all gets sort of mixed in there, and there's just so little of it, and a lot of times they're made of something that's going to disintegrate anyway, so that is not a problem.
All right, thank you. Second question, can plastic caps from bottles and jars be recycled?
Amy?
Okay, so one of the other things we learned about MRFs, the recycling facilities, is that size matters. So you're going back to all these conveyor belts and everything. So little things like lids on their own fall through and don't end up getting recycled. If the lid is on the container, then it probably will be recycled. So that's why just little things don't work well in the system.
Like your beer bottle caps. You're throwing your beer bottle caps in, they're just trickling through and going to the
bottom.
Okay, thank you both. This next one is talking about the collection at the supermarkets. They think the frozen veggie Ziploc bags are polypropylene. Are those included in that recycling allowance at the store?
I mean, so yes, except that, I mean, you would have to wash that first. So, my inclination is that, if there's a messy food that's on your plastic bag, even though that plastic bag is recycled, you can throw that out. I mean, again, it's up to you, but you don't want to put the food residue, especially in those plastic bag collection containers, because, they are going to sit there for a while. They're going to sit in the store for a while, then they're going to go in the back. Because what the stores do is they wrap those into a lot of other plastic. Everything they get is probably wrapped in like big giant pallets wrapped in plastic. So that's part of the reason why it works for them, because they have so much of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, if you want to go to that effort, you certainly can, but you know, it's questionable whether that is worth it for your time and the water, you know. So
Okay, thank you. This next is a comment. This person says, I used plastic bags as insulation between windows that weren't tight. After summers of heat, they disintegrated into shreds.
so yeah, as Amy noted, I mean, the plastic breaks down, but it
Into little
never
pieces.
fully disappears. So even if it, you know, even if it's shredding, which is, you know, it's going to break down, even, you know, being heat and sun, but ultimately it's still gonna, you know, end up in a bird's nest or, you know, in places like that. So it's not tech unless it's an actual biodegradable product, it's not gonna ever go away.
Okay, thanks. Couple more things here, guys. A lot of questions. This is awesome. And if we have to break away, then we can. This next one is disposable diapers take as long as plastic bottles to biodegrade. Question, what is happening to change the makeup of disposable diapers?
Nothing. I mean, Gary's going to have a much better answer for you.
No, I don't, I have to say. You know, my disposable diaper answer has always been, it's more related to the the area you live in and the impacts on water if you're washing the diapers. So in other words, if you're in the Midwest and there's a drought, then maybe washing the diapers is not the smartest thing to do. I mean, it's, you know, I don't have a good answer for that.
I mean, the bottom line is, as any parent knows, it's easier to use disposable diapers,
That's right.
especially when they're gross. And
Well, and not, or so maybe the answer is, you know, when you're on the road, when you're at someone's house, you use those, but maybe at home you try cloth. You know, I don't know. It's also, at least that's a limited time, you know, that you're using this product. So that may be one product where convenience outweighs some of these other issues. So, but you know, it's not that it's not an issue, but I have to say, of all the discussions about all these different things, that does not come up too terribly often, except for this issue of the amount of water that would be used if you know, were to fully switch to cloth diapers. I mean, that, you know, depending on where you live. So, it's the best non-answer we can come up with.
I think it's perfect. Thank you. This next one is, my recyclables are more than my garbage. Why don't municipalities provide bigger totes?
Well, yes, that they should, and you should,
well,
oh, well, all right.
well, the problem is that we found that when we went from the carry it out to the roll it out, people got a lot more creative and hopeful with what could be recycled. So we find that in the literature, it indicates that if you give 30% more room, you often find 30% more contamination. So that's the problem that we're trying to balance out. For great recyclers, yeah, you're doing a lot more recycling, and that's wonderful. But for most people, what we're seeing is there's a big old bin. It looks remarkably like your garbage bin. It's a little smaller, and you would really like this thing to be recycled. So let's just throw it in and hope for the best.
You are 100% right, Amy. I mean, that's, you know, again, it comes back to education and making sure you're putting the right materials in. I do worry, especially for larger families, especially as municipalities move toward an every other week pickup. And by the way, that's a really great use of Recycle Coach, because like after 3 months, you're like, wait a minute, is this a recycle week? Well, Recycle Coach will take away the guesswork. So I do worry about, you know, once once you fill up your tote with the proper materials, are people really going to hold on to them, or are they going to throw them out? So I don't think there's a super clear answer to that, other than to definitely heed what Amy is saying and know that those Christmas lights should not go into your recycle bin, even though there's room, or that broken window. And that's another thing that gets thrown in there. The stories from a MRF about the items that come in a
Bowling
recycling.
balls.
Yeah, I mean, just outrageous things. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the same with our garbage totes. These giant totes, people, you're not supposed to throw away your electronics, but I bet people do.
Oh, goodness. So much to have to know. A couple more things here, and then I'll let you guys go. Do you have any suggestions to encourage local grocery stores to minimize plastic wrapping around produce? Although I bring my reusable mesh bags, there's often no option to buy produce without plastic.
I mean, again, and Amy, you might have a different answer, but my suggestion is you let them know, you fill out the comment card, ask to speak to the manager, because they know that even if one person is saying something, that's representing hundreds of people that will never take the time to say something. So make yourself known, and or you could say, I no longer if this were true, I no longer shop here because such and such at least offers me this opportunity. And that's sort of what I was saying about the lettuce in the plastic. I buy a head of lettuce now, and then I have to wash it and dry it and all that stuff. But that's the decision. I'm trying to make that decision. And I've told the stores, like, about half this stuff in plastic, but they're responding to what people are buying. That's
right, and they're also responding to criticism. So I mean, I've heard about online petitions for Trader Joe's to use less plastic. And after enough people signed up, Trader Joe's, I don't know if they actually did or not, but they said they would figure out a way to use less plastic on their fresh vegetables. So, I mean, there's also strength in numbers. It's strength in getting your community group or your garden group to put in a letter saying, we care about this and we would like you to examine other alternatives.
Right. Yes. Yes. Great idea.
All right. Two more things.
Just kidding.
Pick it. All right. Thank you for the presentation. Can you put plastic wrap from vegetables in the recycling at the grocery store, or things like chip bags?
No to chip bags.
Chip bags are garbage.
Yeah, but the plastic wrap that's around your pepper or whatever, again, as long as it's stretchable, and that's not going to be dirty from food waste if it's just around the outside, or God forbid around like an orange or something like that. My other pet peeve is when I see people putting their bananas into a plastic bag. It's already in a container. My banana's already in a container. So anyway, but yes, again, remember that rule of thumb: if it stretches and it's clean, it's an acceptable plastic wrap to recycle.
Right. And if it looks like it's multi-layer, like your chip bag, it's unrecyclable. It's just garbage.
All right. Thanks, Amy.
The bags that hold our cereal, those are made of a stretchable plastic and can be recycled. Just be sure to empty out all the crumbs, and you can recycle those.
All right. What about plastic straws, ink pens, and other small plastics? Recyclable in general in totes? That's what someone's wondering.
No, absolutely not. Again,
size matters. They all fall through. Oop.
Right. Yeah, and like something like a straw, it could be made out of any number of plastics. So it's not like there's a standard straw that the industry could say, okay, well, we know this is made of, HDPE or something. So, and because of that, and that also holds for all this plastic ware. plastic. That's another reason why not to take that when you get your takeout.
Right.
None
It's
of that.
completely unrecyclable. Just throw it in the trash.
Unfortunately, it is trash. That's why bringing your own or not, or saying no, I'm getting takeout, but please don't put those plastic forks in there. And again, I refer to the menu. Look at the menu and you'll see that I've never seen a menu. Well, I don't think I've ever seen a menu that they've accepted anything like that.
Nope.
Okay, thanks guys. The last question here is, how should we dispose of shredded paper if we don't have a compost pile?
Garbage.
Garbage. I would actually call your recycling company and ask them if they have anything. All right, we're arguing about this. Amy and I do argue from time to time. But because I have heard a few different answers. So I would actually call yours and say, hey, and I know the one thing they'll say though is like, wait till you have well, I won't say whatever they might say. That would be my answer, not just, or bedding. Could you use it for bedding for something? I don't know.
Stuff a pillowcase full and use that.
That's right. What a great idea. Reuse right there.
Super comfy.
A little crunchy, maybe.
All right. Well, we've got, wow, I'm glad I've been to the recycling class. I've got to change some ways.
Well,
I downloaded the free app. Thank you.
All right. No, we really appreciate everyone, taking the time to listen to us. We wish things were just a little bit simpler, straightforward, but that's what we've really learned, especially in the last couple of years, is that it's just not, I remember, like, before all the plastics were accepted, we used to have to say, narrow neck and screw on top. And I would go out and talk about this, and people would be like, well, why can't, and then all of a sudden they accepted all these plastics and all the recycling. We're like, oh, yay, we don't have to do that anymore. And then to find out 10 years later, maybe that was all a lie, and that's just really, really upsetting. That's part of the reason why we want to do this. We want to, let people know how important it is to follow, what should and shouldn't be recycled. And stay tuned for what Amy will do with our recycling menu for Erie County.
Ooh, maybe in the fall. And Amy, somebody's wondering, what's the gnome again? Can you just explain that quick?
Yeah. The gnome is our new Erie County spokesmodel for healthy lawns. So we actually have a 4-foot tall gnome statue that we take out and about. You may see it around. And he actually has his own circuit. He goes to garden shows. He spent a month at the botanical garden, and goes to visit hotspots all around Erie County to remind people that if we use less or no pesticides and fertilizers on our lawn, it's better for our environment, it's better for our pets, and it's better for the birds and the bees.
And this is a program of our Environmental Management Council. And if you want to find out more, that's erie.gov/healthy lawns. So healthy lawns, all one word.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you for your time today, and thank you to everyone who's on. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thanks,
have a
Katie.
wonderful
We
weekend.
appreciate it. Keep recycling. Just make sure you're doing it right.